Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube and Twitter. I am Bryson Carver, as always. Hope everybody is having an excellent Friday afternoon. We've got a great show for you guys today. We had a blockbuster trade in the NFL, not involving any players, not anything like that, but certainly involving two and possibly three teams looking at a quarterback. I'll get into that later in the show as we go. Also, Sweet 16 starts this weekend. This is when the tournament really starts to ramp up, right? You've got the best of the best. You've got the best teams left in the tournament without a question. I will discuss who I believe is going to win because let's be honest, all of our brackets are trashed at this point. So let's just have some fun with it and predict all 8 games in the Sweet 16. Got a quadruple header on Saturday, quadruple header on Sunday. It's going to be fun. Also, Leonard Fournette is staying in Tampa Bay, meaning Antonio Brown is the last guy, really, last contributor on this Bucs squad who has not been re-signed yet. So they're bringing the whole Brady bunch back to Tampa Bay to try and run it back again this year. I'll discuss what that means for the rest of the NFL later on in the show. Also, yes, the Lakers are done. I'll leave it at that, and I'll get into it later in the show. But Adam Schefter earlier today broke some pretty big news regarding the NFL draft. He reported that the San Francisco 49ers have traded up to the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. Miami, of course, is now, or was at the time, they had the 12th pick in the draft. And, okay, so they finessed their way. They got 4 draft picks. San Francisco's up to 3. Let me discuss San Francisco before I get into the Dolphins, who, of course, it seemed like 10 minutes later, made a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles to move them to the 6th overall pick in the draft, to move up 6 more spots. This means Jimmy Garoppolo is done in San Francisco. If you're the 49ers, you don't trade to the 3rd overall pick in the draft to take a receiver or a left tackle, although there is a great left tackle in the draft, and there are great receivers in the draft. But you don't give up 4 picks, move all the way up to 3 just to take a guy who could contribute to you, or contribute for you, I should say, to possibly being a championship squad. This is all about, they do not believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. Simple as that. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, they've sat together and they're like, can't rely on this guy to stay healthy. The one season he was healthy, heck, they not only got to the Super Bowl, they did it with ease, right? In the playoffs, they play a very talented Minnesota team, and that game wasn't close. And then they match up with Green Bay, who went 13-3. You could say a fraudulent 13-3, but hey, they went 13-3 and blew them out. And the game was over at halftime for the 2nd straight time that they played this team. And say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not perfect. I like him, don't love him, but he was one missed throw away from Emmanuel Sanders at the end of that football game of beating Patrick Mahomes. And for 3.5 quarters, really, if you think about it, that 49ers defense was totally shutting down Kansas City. Mahomes had 2 bad interceptions, right? The Chiefs, that explosive offense, scored 10 points through the first, 56 minutes or 54 minutes of the game. I mean, I think I talked about this before the Super Bowl. I believe that the 49ers gave the Bucs a blueprint on how to beat Kansas City. You got to get pressure on Mahomes, got to make them uncomfortable. And you saw what Tampa Bay did, and that game wasn't even close. Kansas City scored 9 points the whole game and were held to no touchdowns. And so you look at the 49ers today, and what has been the number one issue? Has it been talent? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Has it been an incompetent general manager? Absolutely not. John Lynch is as good as they come. Has it been due to the fact questionable play calling by Kyle Shanahan? No. Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in the league. It comes down to this. When Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, they're a Super Bowl contender. When he's not, middle of the road team. 6-10, 8-8 at the very best. And they had I get it. They had injuries everywhere else. George Kittle missed an extended period of time last year. One could argue the best tight end in football. I believe the second best, right behind Travis Kelce. But they said, okay, look, Garoppolo's talented, but what's the old saying in sports? The best ability is availability. You got to be there. You got to be ready for those big games. And more often than not, Jimmy Garoppolo's not. Let's go through his injury history. We remember when Tom Brady was was one of the most bogus suspensions I've ever seen, but Tom Brady was suspended for the first 4 games of the 2016 season. And so Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, and they get a big road win against the Arizona Cardinals in week 1. And then we go to week 2, and they were playing the Miami Dolphins. They're on their way to, a big win at home, and Jimmy Garoppolo hurts his shoulder and is done for an extended period of time. Of course, he doesn't start a game the rest of the season because by the time he's healthy, Brady's already been back in the lineup. And so you have the whole drama with Brady and Belichick, and Robert Kraft doesn't want to trade Brady. Belichick does. And Brady's like, trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't want this, my understudy, my backup looking right over my shoulder, the guy you want to replace me. I don't want him looking over my shoulder. And they trade him to San Francisco. And what does Kyle Shanahan do? He sits Jimmy Garoppolo for, I believe it was 3 or 4 games. And the 49ers are 1-10. It looks like they're going to be in the running, if not in the running, the front runner for the first overall pick. And all of a sudden, they throw Jimmy G in there, and all he does is go 5-0. The 49ers win the final 5 games of the season. They finish 6-10. And so then we go into the 2018 season where San Francisco has a clear-cut starting quarterback. It's like, here we go. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's the man. And they lose at Minnesota in week 1 in 2018. They win against Detroit in week 2. And then we go to week 3. Ironically, they played the team that they would play a season later in the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs. And Jimmy Garoppolo takes off, runs to his left, and tears his ACL on a hit on the sideline. And his season's over, and the 49ers, I don't even remember what they finished, 4-12? They weren't a great football team in 2018. And Jimmy G stays healthy for the whole season in 2019. And you look at all the teams they beat. They beat the Seahawks, and they beat the Packers, destroyed the Packers twice, including the NFC Championship game. They beat the Saints on the road in a high-scoring game. They came that close to beating the Baltimore Ravens, who had the best record in the NFL in 2019, and the MVP in Lamar Jackson. And, of course, they demolished Minnesota and came that close to beating the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54. And so we looked at this 49ers team going into 2020 like, hey, this team's got a shot to get back to the Super Bowl. And it was injury after injury, and then Jimmy Garoppolo goes down twice, and just not the same football team. And so they're like, you know what? We like Jimmy G a lot. We do. I think he's a solid leader. He's coachable, seems like. Solid arm, accurate. Doesn't move great in the pocket, but when we have a great offensive line, which the 49ers absolutely do, we saw they locked in Trent Williams in the largest contract in the history of any left tackle. He deserves every penny. He's unbelievable. So they got a great offensive line, but they're like, if he can't stay healthy, we're okay with going with a rookie. Throw him into the starting lineup, and here we go. So listen, San Francisco did not trade from 12 to 3 to take a left tackle. They already got that. Or a guy like Jamar Chase, who I believe is going to be the first receiver taken. Most people believe that. Or even Devontae Smith, possibly. They've got very good receivers. They got Debo, and they've got, of course, George Kittle at tight end. Like, they've got some solid wide receivers. So I don't think they would trade up 9 spots, give up 4 picks to take a receiver. Unless Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith turns out to be like Randy Moss or something, that's probably not the reason they traded up. It's definitely, at least we assume, not for a great defensive lineman. Because, man, it's kind of a running joke I've had on the show. Like, until Jesus comes, the 49ers are going to take a first round. They're going to use their first round selection on a defensive lineman. They've done it, the last 5 years or something? You had Boza, and you had Armstead. You had guys like the Kinlaw that was taken out of South Carolina last year. So, I mean, every year they take a defensive line. They took Solomon Thomas in 2017, 3rd overall. So this is what this team likes to do. But I doubt they go up that high to take a defensive lineman. So this is it for Jimmy G. And I know there are sources out of San Francisco. We're not going to trade him. We're not interested in trading him. Come on. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, if you believed in Jimmy Garoppolo like the Chiefs believed in Patrick Mahomes, or the Buccaneers believe in Tom Brady, you're not making this trade. Okay, you're just trying to load up on an already very, very talented football team, a team that, hey, you stay healthy, you're absolutely a Super Bowl contender with all the talent on that squad. So I just look at it and I say, I don't know how they wouldn't be drafting a quarterback 3rd overall. So we all know Trevor Lawrence is going number 1 overall. That's not a question. Then we got the 2nd pick, and that's kind of the one that's up in the air. Do the Jets keep Sam Darnold, or do they trade him and draft Zach Wilson out of BYU, who had a great pro day, by the way? Like Zach Wilson, the thing with him, I think he's crazy talented. I wouldn't have an issue with at all if the Jets took him. I just believe the Jets have kind of messed up a lot of careers at the quarterback position. You had Chad Pennington and Mark Sanchez. You could make fun of the butt fumble all he wants. He showed potential out of USC, and the Jets kind of messed up his career. You look at Sam Darnold, and I hope he can revitalize his career somewhere else. Possibly I've heard Washington could be in the mix. I've heard teams throw. I did hear Chicago Bears until they signed Andy Dalton. Of course, they could still trade for Sam Darnold. So that's the kind of one that's up in the air that I think is going to determine who the 49ers take. If the Jets trade Sam Darnold, take Zach Wilson, I think there's one right answer for San Francisco. And you say Justin Fields, right? I like Justin Fields, I do. But too many times in college, I didn't get that consistency from him. Even in his his sophomore season at Ohio State, his first season starting at Ohio State was his sophomore year in college. Of course, he transferred from Georgia. Up and down at times, right? He didn't play very well at all against Clemson in that semifinal game. And then a year later, Big Ten championship game, he plays awful, albeit against a great Northwestern defense. But if you are a guy whose name was in the running to be the 2nd quarterback taken behind Trevor Lawrence, a guy who in some cases, in some drafts might be the number 1 overall pick, like you got to play better than he did against Northwestern. And he didn't. And so then we go to the semifinal game. They play Clemson, and he has the game of his life. 6 touchdown passes? He's got a busted up rib and still throws 6 touchdown passes against that Clemson defense, and then turns around a week and a half later against Alabama and isn't very good in the second half. So I don't know what I'm getting from Justin Fields on a consistent basis. Now, maybe under Kyle Shanahan, that changes. But I think there's one home run at the quarterback position in this draft. It's Trevor Lawrence. There's no question he's going to be a home run. He's going to turn around the Jacksonville franchise. But then you look, Zach Wilson. I think he's talented, but is he talented to totally change the Jets franchise? Doubt it. Justin Fields, I don't know. And we see quarterbacks at these big schools, they don't necessarily work out. There's one right answer, and I said it on social media earlier. It's Trey Lance. Trey Lance is that dude. You look at, don't get me started on Mac Jones. Let's just toss that to the side. You Fields or Trey Lance. I like Trey Lance more. Here's why. Trey Lance in college showed more consistency. I believe he moves in the pocket better than Justin Fields. His accuracy is a little better than Justin Fields, right? And once he gets to the National Football League, this is, of course, by a mile, the best talent he's ever played with. Of course, for any quarterback that is, but you look at the jump from college to the pros, of the 5 quarterbacks people believe are going to be first-round picks, Trey Lance has the highest jump from college talent to NFL talent. Trevor Lawrence played with Clemson players. Justin Fields, Ohio State players. Even BYU, that's still a more talented team than North Dakota State. Alabama, don't even get me started. That's the most talented team in America year in and year out. So I think Trey Lance is that guy. I really do. I think he's the dude that the 49ers need to take with the 3rd overall pick. But I think without a question, we don't know who that quarterback is that they're going to take. But for them to do this, to trade 4 picks, including, of course, that first rounder. And I believe they gave up another first rounder. Actually, they did. They gave another first rounder to the Dolphins for next year. So these next 2 drafts, or at least next year's draft, they don't have a first round pick. You don't do that for a receiver or for an offensive lineman or even for a great defensive player. You do that for a franchise quarterback, which clearly they don't believe Jimmy G can be because of the fact that he can't stay healthy. That factors. If Jimmy Garoppolo was a guy that could stay healthy on a consistent basis, I don't think this would really be in the cards for the 49ers. Is he the most talented quarterback in the league? No, he's not. Is he top 10? Probably not. No, I don't think he is. But does he get the job done for you? Does he not make that many mistakes? Yeah. He's one of the better game manager quarterbacks in the league. And hey, you can win with those guys. You can. The 49ers almost did it. They almost won the Super Bowl with the game manager at quarterback a couple of years back against Kansas City. So that's all I'm saying is you're not going to make a trade like this to get, a side piece. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. Now, as far as Miami, this one was really interesting because my first reaction when I saw the trade is, okay, the 49ers clearly don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. And my second reaction was, I guess the Dolphins do believe in Tua at least for one more year. And then 10, 15 minutes later, Adam Schefter tweets, hey, the Dolphins have traded back up to the 6th overall pick. They've swapped picks with the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's come with a comment here. My man, Barry Grant Jr., they said they're keeping him. Listen, we hear all the time teams say, oh, we're keeping this guy. And then, they move on from him. Think about in the NBA, DeMar DeRozan. The general manager, Masai Ujiri, was speaking glowingly of DeMar. And like a week later, they traded him for Kawhi Leonard. We see with the Seahawks and the Bears. The Bears look like they're going to make a deal for Russell Wilson, and they sign Andy Dalton. And just yesterday, I believe it was, on social media, they called him QB1. That's inspiring, right? Andy Dalton. But my point is, I don't believe them. I really don't think they're going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. If they're going to move up 9 picks and give up 4, including next year's first rounder, do they really? Are they going to do that for a side piece? That's my only question as to whether they're saying they're going to keep him. I don't think that's going to be the case. Appreciate the comment there from Barry. But back to the Dolphins. You swap picks with Philadelphia. Of course, Philadelphia is just a train wreck right now. I mean, you had the Nick Sirianni guy that they hired. I don't think he's going to work at all. Even his opening press conference was just terrible. Looked like he was reading off a teleprompter, for crying out loud. And I like Jalen Hurts. I think if Jalen Hurts fixes, first of all, the one knock on Carson Wentz last year, he turns the ball over too much. And that's true. And I've been as big of a Carson Wentz critic as there's been. But Jalen Hurts turned the ball over quite a bit himself. I believe in the 3 games he started, he turned the ball over 7 times. Okay, that he's got to clean that up. But if he can do that, improve his accuracy, I think he could be a very good starting quarterback in the league. I really do. I saw they signed Joe Flacco the other day. Joe Flacco's not beating out Jalen Hurts at this stage in his career for the starting job. But just across the board, outside of Fletcher Cox, who's the elite player for the Eagles? Lane Johnson's out of his prime. That offensive line isn't what it used to be. The running game isn't what it used to be. Like I can't trust this team in the long run or this organization because they've just been flippy-floppy. But Miami, first reaction, they trade it to San Francisco. They trade the 3rd pick, and I'm like, oh, I guess they believe in Tua because they know at least 4 quarterbacks will be gone by the time they get their first-round pick at 12. And now they trade up to 6. So here we go. What's going to happen now? Do they believe Justin Fields or Trey Lance will be available to them at 6? Certainly it's possible. Some mock drafts have, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance as the first 4 picks consecutively. Like the boom, 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 boom. 4 quarterbacks off the board. So if that's the case, then I can assure you the Dolphins are not going to go with Mac Jones with the 6th pick. And so now it's like, okay, what are they going to do? And by the way, I do have to give Miami a ton of credit for this. I do have to give them a ton of credit in what they've done in their front office, because the trade last year, they trade Laramie Tunsil, who was a first-round pick back in 2016. They trade him to the Houston Texans, and over the course of the last few years, they turned Laramie Tunsil into 4 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick. Hey, give credit's due, man. That is brilliant general managing. Brilliant general managing by the Miami Dolphins. So give them the credit where they deserve it. And I believe this is a team that is building to win championships. I really do. I believe that over the next 5 years, the best division rivalry in the NFL could very well be Bills-Dolphins, which, that brings you back to like the late 80s, early 90s, right? With Marino and Jim Kelly, right? So that, I think that'd be great for the NFL. Having those 2, great franchises go head to head year in and year out for the division. So I look at Miami today and I look at Tua, and I said last year, Tua, if he's healthy, I believe he's the best quarterback in the draft. And for the most part last year, he was healthy. And he was absolutely not the best quarterback in the draft. Okay, Justin Herbert clearly was the best. Joe Burrow was dead wrong in his ability in the NFL. I'm sadly not wrong on the organization he's went to. And by the way, the Bengals have done a terrible job, a garbage job of giving him a good offensive line, which I've been calling for them to do for a year. And they still haven't done it. Maybe they address in the draft. I don't know. But Joe Burrow was the second best quarterback out of the 2020 draft, at least last year. And Tua was at best the third. He wasn't bad. He wasn't terrible, but not what you would have expected from a guy taken with the 5th overall pick. And so I step back and I say, okay, what is Miami going to do? I feel like this has kind of gone under the radar. They signed Jacoby Brissett. They let Ryan Fitzpatrick go. Fitzpatrick signs with the Washington football team. But they bring in Jacoby Brissett, right? And Jacoby Brissett is kind of in that group, right? I talk about with Marcus Mariota, Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, although I think this year Jameis Winston will elevate above this level. And that level is low-end starter, high-end backup. That's how I think of Jacoby Brissett. He can win you some games, but he's probably not going to put you in championship contention. And so, today, who's better, Jacoby Brissett or Tua? Ooh. Oh, man, that's close, right? And so I don't see the Dolphins this year. And we got to see what happens in 2022. But in 2021, I don't see the Dolphins pulling what the Arizona Cardinals pulled in 2019, right? 2018, they draft Josh Rosen with the 10th overall pick. And we're thinking, hey, this kid out of UCLA, man, he's talented. Like this guy could be the best quarterback of the draft. And he goes in his rookie year, and he is just awful. I mean, they're terrible. And they fire their head coach, and they end up with the number 1 overall pick. And it's like, man, do we go forward with this Rosen guy, or we draft this kid, Kyler Murray, out of Oklahoma? And ultimately, they made the decision, we're going to take Kyler Murray. And, of course, they trade Josh Rosen. I kind of feel bad for Josh Rosen because every single year he's had a different offensive coordinator, so I feel like he hasn't really gotten a fair shot. But there was absolutely, though, the right decision by the Cardinals to trade him. They got Kyler Murray now. And a lot of people, including myself, believe that the Cardinals are going to be a playoff team this year, considering the offseason acquisitions, considering the guys they've drafted in the past couple of years. I think this is going to be a really, really good football team, albeit playing in probably the most difficult division in the league, the NFC West. Do the Dolphins do what the Cardinals did last year? I don't believe so, because Tua, for all his flaws, he was better his rookie year than Josh Rosen was his rookie year. Like, Josh Rosen was like, man, that dude's awful. That dude can't play. At least it appeared that way. Kyler Murray, oh man, this kid could turn around our franchise. And of course, they trade for Kyler Murray, and again, like I mentioned, we see where that's what that's turned out to be. And so the Dolphins are in a real dilemma because they got the 6th pick. And for a franchise, like I said, I believe they're building this team to win championships, or at least to contend for championships in the next 5 to 6 years. I mean, you see the jump that they made since they hired Brian Flores, right? They go from 5 wins in 2019 to double that to 10 wins and barely missed the playoffs last year. And so certainly, I wouldn't be shocked if they won the division next year if Buffalo takes a step back. Who knows? This is one of the more well-functioning franchises in the league. And so the Dolphins have a real problem. We know we're going to be good for the foreseeable future. So chances are we're not going to get this high of a pick in the next few years unless we trade up. Which, I mean, you prefer not to do, but if you got to do it, you do. But say we don't make any trades, we're not going to be as high as the 6th overall pick for the next few years. Then are we stuck drafting a quarterback we like but don't love in the late 1st round next year if we don't like what we see from Tua? I think Tua gets one more shot. I think it's totally fair to give him one more year in this offense. You get a more normal offseason. It still probably won't look like it normally does with OTAs and everything because we are still in the middle of a pandemic. But it is going to look a little better than last year. I'd say not everything's going to be virtual. He gets, again, another year to learn that playbook. And a lot of times, listen, we've seen quarterbacks in the past have bad years, bad rookie years or average rookie years, and they come out their second year and they just dominate, right? Lamar Jackson. Good in his rookie year. He comes in his second year, blows the league away and wins MVP. You see Jared Goff, right? Jared Goff was awful his rookie year. I mean, people were calling him a bust after his first year. He was bad. That was, of course, in large part because Jeff Fisher was his head coach. But then they bring in this young guy, Sean McVay, and all of a sudden, Jared Goff led the Rams to the playoffs in 2017, and they won the NFC West. And, of course, they went to the Super Bowl a year later. We see Carson Wentz, right? Carson Wentz was okay his rookie year. His second year, a lot of people believe, I don't, but a lot of people believe that he would have been on the path to win the MVP award. So he clearly took a big jump to year 2. Is that what Tua does? I'm not ruling it out. I think the kid's talented. I really do. His accuracy is unbelievable. His throwing motion is as good. His mechanics are as good as anybody. I feel like he does get kind of happy feet in the pocket, whereas, he looks for his first read, and if his first read's not there, he kind of panics and he either throws it away or he gets sacked, or gets strip sacked, and it's a turnover. So, we see that with rookie quarterbacks. Very rarely do guys come in and they have perfect pocket awareness, and they know where everybody's coming, and they're not constantly looking at their first read. Like, that's the difference between college and the NFL for quarterbacks. College offenses are turning into NFL offenses, or probably you could say the other way around. NFL offenses are looking more and more like college offenses, but it is still different. College first read, if he's not there, run, scramble, or go to your second read outside the pocket. So that's kind of what you're looking at if you're the Miami Dolphins today. Is okay. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks, not just one or two. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks year 1 to year 2 make a massive leap. Is Tua going to be able to do that? Hey, look at Josh Allen, by the way. Josh Allen in year 1 wasn't very good. Well, I think he barely completed over 50% of his passes. That's terrible. Year 2, he's not amazing, but he's better, and the Bills get to the playoffs. And then in year 3, Josh Allen, toward the end of the season, was the MVP discussion. So you see that jump, and a lot of that is great coaching. Well, the Dolphins have a great coaching staff. So, if we could see this with Tua, I'm still not ruling it out. I think they give him one more shot. If he's still gun shy in the pocket, immobile, which we kind of already knew that about Tua. He's not exactly a guy that's going to take off like his former teammate at Alabama, Jalen Hurts, or like most quarterbacks. But if accuracy is still a problem, if reading defenses is still a problem, then they're probably just going to have to move on and go with the quarterback in the future. But that's kind of the situation the Dolphins in is we're not going to have a pick this high for a while. So because we're going to be really good these next few years. So do we jump at it now and take the risk of, kind of bailing on Tua and going with somebody else? Or do they say, give the kid one more shot and see what happens? We did draft him 5th overall. We did see something. Can that something show itself in 2021? That's what the Dolphins got to ask themselves today. I believe they believe in Tua for one more year. If it doesn't work, then they go with somebody else. By the way, Leonard Fournette re-signed in Tampa Bay. Now, we had heard murmurs that James White, right, the really good receiving back in New England, we'd heard maybe he goes to Tampa Bay and maybe Leonard Fournette goes to New England. And, of course, Tom Brady gave him the nickname Playoff Lenny because Leonard Fournette was not great in the regular season at all. He was, I think some games he was even a healthy scratch. Like he just kind of got benched some games in favor of Ronald Jones. And once we get to the playoffs against the Saints, he's amazing. Actually, really starting with the wild card game against Washington, I think he had 2 touchdowns in that game. He's great. He has a touchdown in the Saints game. In the Packers, I believe he had a touchdown. He ran for almost 100 yards. And in the Super Bowl, some believed he was in the conversation for Super Bowl MVP. He had that touchdown run in the third quarter that kind of put the game out of reach for Kansas City. So he was great in the playoffs. That's why Tom Brady gave him the nickname Playoff Lenny. And so he comes back on a 1-year, $4 million deal. He told that to Josina Anderson of ESPN. So I'm coming back 1 year, $4 million, essentially what he came to Tampa Bay for last year. And so Tampa Bay's bringing the whole squad back. I hear the kind of the corny term, the Brady Bunch, but I guess you could say that it kind of is the Brady Bunch because Tom Brady got Gronk to come, and he got Leonard Fournette to come. And he, in the middle of a 6-2 start, he tells Bruce Arians, who wanted no part of Antonio Brown, he said, hey, come on, let's bring him over here and see what happens. And Antonio Brown is big for them in the playoffs and catches a huge touchdown at the end of the first half in the Super Bowl. So Tom's like, hey, I can make anybody work. And this is scary. And you've heard me say that I said last year at the Super Bowl, like, regardless if Tampa Bay wins or loses against Kansas City, and we all know they ultimately won the game, huge. But what's scary is if they somehow keep the squad together, they're going to be better. They're going to be better next year in 2021. Think about it. Last year, Tom Brady goes from New England, a system he's known not for 5-10 years, for 2 decades. 2 decades. Then he goes to Tampa Bay last going into the spring during free agency, and bam, the pandemic hits, and OTA's gone. It's all virtual, right? Tom was getting kicked out of state parks because he was working out with his receivers, right? Trying to build some kind of chemistry like you normally see, new quarterbacks or new receivers try to build in the offseason. He's out there with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Scotty Miller trying to build, and Cameron Brate and OJ Howard trying to build some kind of chemistry in the offseason, whatever they can build in a pandemic. And they're getting kicked out of state parks because, hey, there's COVID restrictions. We can't have you over here. And so all that in a pandemic season where you're getting tested every day and there's all kinds of restrictions, and nothing about last season in the NFL was normal. Again, new system in general. And by the way, they don't win the division. And they win the Super Bowl. And not only win the Super Bowl, dominated Kansas City. And so they come back next year, and they re-signed everybody. And Ndamukong Suh the other day re-signed. Levante David, he's back. Shaq Barrett, the one guy that I thought, Shaq Barrett's gone. They re-signed Shaq Barrett, and he didn't take a pay cut. They gave him his money. 4 years, $72 million. He got his. They bring him back. Right? They bring back Gronk. Of course, Brady restructured his deal. I mean, the playoff Lenny is back. Now they just got to bring back Antonio Brown, and it's virtually the exact same roster. Matter of fact, it kind of is the same roster, because I read today that this is the first Super Bowl winning team since 1979, 42 years, to win the Super Bowl and bring back all of their starters. That's never happened in 42 years. Tampa Bay, in a salary cap era, in a free agent era, did that. So, we hear all the time, with Dak Prescott, for example, I heard this all the time, is, you can't pay him $40 million. It's going to wreck the salary cap. Well, Tampa Bay brought back all of their star players, all of them. And a lot of these guys, Jason Pierre-Paul, they brought him back, right? All of these guys are getting paid. And they brought them all back because they have their capologist is a genius, man. Right? Whoever that guy is or that woman is, hey, props to them. They do an excellent job. So the rest of the NFL is just, you got to keep up with Tampa Bay, right? We see, by the way, with Chicago Bears, they released Kyle Fuller, by far their best corner, who I wanted the Cowboys to pick up once he was released, and of course Denver ended up picking him up like that. But the Bears have to release him because it's like, he's making $17 million a year. We can't manage it with the cap. Tampa Bay proved, yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can pay a quarterback. Listen, Tom's not making what Dak or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers is making. But if you can divvy up, you can play with the salary cap, even in a hard cap, and be able to get good deals with players and keep your team together. Tampa Bay just proved you can do it. So it's up to the rest of the NFL to catch up. By the way, the Packers, I thought they were going to let Aaron Jones go, and they didn't. Aaron Jones took a pay cut. And Corey Linsley, one of the top 3 centers in the league, they just let him walk. They just let him walk, and he signs with the Chargers to help protect Justin Herbert. And so Aaron Rodgers has got to be thinking, you got to be kidding me. Like, you can't re-sign my center, and Tampa Bay's bringing back the whole flipping all-star squad. I mean, come on, this is unbelievable. And so give credit where credit's due. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers own the salary cap. I mean, they do. They own that salary cap, man, and they're bringing back everybody. This is scary to think with this team. They are I'm going to say right now, the overwhelming favorite to win the Super Bowl next year. You say, hey, it's been a long time since a team has gone back-to-back winning the Super Bowl. Yeah, you're right. It's been almost 20 years. You know, the last guy who went back-to-back in the Super Bowl was Tom Brady. So he's done it before. And with this team, with good chemistry, with the Saints out, the Saints will probably be a solid team next year. They might contend for the playoffs, but they're not going to win the division next year. Atlanta, they're in rebuild mode. Carolina, they're in rebuild mode. So Tampa Bay is going to win the division next year with ease. Yeah, they'll probably go undefeated in the division. At the worst case scenario, 5-1. And so this is the best team Tom Brady's ever played with. And Tom Brady, you heard the infamous Max Kellerman cliff theory, which went all across the sports media. Oh, Tom Brady's falling off a cliff. He's falling off, man. Age 42 in last year in New England. I don't know. And he goes to Tampa Bay, and the man throws 40 touchdowns, and the Bucs won the Super Bowl. And on that run, at the last 2 games, he beat the MVP in Aaron Rodgers and the Super Bowl MVP, the reigning at the time Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes. This is a scary, scary sight for the rest of the NFL. And the Bucs are without a shadow of a doubt, the favorites to win the NFC next season and get back to the Super Bowl, which I believe is in at the beautiful SoFi Stadium in Southern California. I think it's in Inglewood. I mean, that stadium is that in Vegas. Whew, man, those are 2 unbelievable stadiums. So today, yeah, I think Tampa Bay's clearly the favorites to get back to the Super Bowl. Now, let me talk about the Lakers, and I kind of teased it at the beginning of the show, so thank you all for sticking around for this. The Lakers are done. I said on Monday, after LeBron's injury, and especially after the report came out from Shams, where he reported AD's out 2 weeks, at least 2 more weeks, and at the time of the injury, LeBron is out 4 to 6 weeks. And I said, okay, the Lakers have one hope to stay in the playoff picture, or not in the playoff picture. They're going to make the playoffs, but to stay in a top 4 seed and get home court advantage for at least one series. And that's trade for Bradley Beal. I can admit when I'm wrong on the show, guys. And I thought when the Brooklyn Nets traded for James Harden, this is a terrible trade, right? James Harden's a great player. Nobody's doubting that. But I'm thinking, man, Brooklyn already had a superstar in Kevin Durant, who I believe is the best player on the planet, a superstar point guard in Kyrie Irving, and a loaded bench. And they basically gave up almost every bench player except for Spencer Dinwiddie, who's hurt, probably out for the season, for James Harden. And I'm thinking, this is awful. This is going to be a top-heavy team with no bench. And the Nets have proved themselves to be the best team in the NBA over the last couple of months since they made that trade for James Harden. So I was wrong on that. So I can change my opinion, right? I can admit when I'm wrong on the show. And I was wrong on that one. And so with that, with the new information presented to me with that trade, I can say, okay, Lakers have a decent bench, right? They got decent depth. Dennis Schroeder, very good point guard. Montrezl Harrell, reigning 6th man of the year. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP, right? Hit big shots in the bubble last year. They were calling KCP and Danny Green the Brick Brothers. You have a Splash Brothers in Golden State. They were calling those 2 guys the Brick Brothers until KCP got going against the Rockets, the Nuggets, and then in the finals against the Heat, and he was excellent. You got Salt. You got the Taylor Horton Tucker, who everybody in LA likes. He's got talent. Kyle Kuzma. So you look at this Lakers team, and they've got depth. That's part of the reason I picked them to win the championship this season. Is I feel like they got better, and I still believe with LeBron and AD and good chemistry and plenty of playing time together, I do believe they're better than they were last year. But of course, nobody saw Anthony Davis suffering an Achilles injury. Now, I almost said serious Achilles injury, but I'd say serious is one that he'd probably miss like 3-4 months, right? So, like a borderline torn Achilles, not a ruptured, which cost you a year, but a partially torn Achilles, which cost you, quite a few months. And then I definitely didn't see being, one of the most durable superstar athletes we've ever seen, LeBron James. I definitely didn't see a freak play where Solomon Hill half-heartedly kind of dives for the ball, but he doesn't want to go into LeBron's knee, and he ends up going in his ankle, and it's a high ankle sprain for LeBron James, and he's out for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So by the time LeBron comes back, there'll be about 2 weeks left in the regular season. And listen, again, the Lakers are going to make the playoffs. They're not going to miss it. But I said if they don't trade for Bradley Beal's got to keep their head above water. Because we've seen the Lakers have lost 4 straight games. And listen, I know LA fans are like, hey, look, we almost beat the 76ers last night. First of all, the 76ers don't have Joel Embiid, and the 76ers blew a 24-point lead and almost lost a game the other night against a Golden State Warriors team without Steph Curry. So Philadelphia is not looking as good as I thought they were initially without Joel Embiid. Like they're not playing the greatest of competition. So let's not. Danny Green was great last night. Hit a huge 3 at the end of that game, but I'm not taking Philadelphia seriously unless they have Joel Embiid. So this is a Lakers team, again, that's lost 4 straight games. Outside of that Philly game, they've gotten blown out in every single one without LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And so today, I say they're done. Even when AD comes back 2 to 3 weeks from now, and I believe it'll be about 2.5, 3 weeks. They want to play it safe. He comes back, okay, he'll be winning games, but I've talked about it time and time again on the show. Anthony Davis is a superstar. But Anthony Davis cannot be the best player on a championship-winning team. He doesn't have those leadership intangibles, and those matter. LeBron does. Okay? Steph Curry does. Jimmy Butler absolutely does. We saw with the Denver Nuggets. I think Jokic is a good leader. I don't think he gets enough credit. Kyle Lowry does. I think Chris Paul does. Anthony Davis doesn't. And listen, that's okay. Not everybody's a born leader. There's nothing wrong with that. But you do need to have a clear-cut leader in order to contend for championships. Of course, that and talent. So you got to have the talent. But you got to have that one guy that everybody can say, okay, we're following you to the finish line. Anthony Davis just really isn't that guy. He only made the playoffs twice in 7 years in New Orleans. For a superstar like he is, you got to do better than that. And so he'll come back and they'll win some games. But by the time LeBron comes back, first of all, LeBron will have to work on getting back into basketball shape, as will Anthony Davis, by the way. So LeBron will have to work on getting back into basketball shape, try and build whatever chemistry they can, and then here comes the playoffs. And get ready. Lakers are done. They are not going to win the finals in 2021. I picked them to do it before the season started. I probably should stick with it, but Brooklyn's going to win it this year. They just are. I think the Clippers are better with Rajon Rondo than they were with Lou Williams. Denver added Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee. They could maybe possibly make a run at the Western Conference Finals. The Utah Jazz, say what you want about them. I'm not sure they could beat the Lakers, but they certainly have better team chemistry, and they played better consistently this season. So, listen, team chemistry matters. We saw this with the LA Clippers last year. Kawhi Leonard is on load management. Paul George is on load management, and the team didn't really play together. And once we get to the playoffs, you can tell the team didn't play together that often. And the case of the Lakers is not load management, it's injuries. Dennis Schroeder was out for a while. AD's been out for a month now, and he's going to be out another 2 to 3 weeks. LeBron's going to be out about a month and a half. So this is not good if you're a Lakers fan, and I'm just here to tell you, championship number 18 is not coming to LA in 2021. I hate to say it to y'all, hate to break it to y'all, but you can't in 2 weeks get LeBron, great player, unbelievable, second greatest player of all time, second best player in the NBA today. But he can't get back into basketball shape and them try to build team chemistry in only 2 weeks. So what's that? 5 games? 6 games? That's not enough time to get ready for the playoffs. And then here comes playoff basketball, and then you're just kind of thrown back into it. And we saw what lack of team chemistry does to you. We saw it with the Clippers last year. We're going to see it with the Lakers this year. There'll be a team that gets to the second round. Heck, they might even get to the Western Conference Finals. but they can't get to the NBA Finals with all the adversity they've dealt with this year. With all the injuries, lack of team chemistry, that stuff matters. That stuff matters. So, even with Brooklyn, who's missed guys, hey, James Harden has been on a roll, right? Kyrie Irving's had 40-point games. So once they get KD is a guy you can just slide back into the lineup, right? He's not the same kind of high-energy player that LeBron is as far as, controlling the tempo of a game. That's more James Harden style. KD can come in and be the best player on the team, the best scorer on the team, get James Harden the basketball in those key situations, Kyrie Irving as well. Brooklyn is going to be LA if there were a Brooklyn-LA finals, but I don't think LA is getting to the finals. I don't. Is the Clippers of the Jazz. And even Denver. I'm even willing to bet on Denver at this point. Maybe I'll look back at this and laugh at myself, but I doubt it. Okay, we got before I move on to my next topic, we got some breaking news right here in NFL free agency. This is a big one. Sammy Watkins, right? Second best receiver on the Chiefs for a while. He's leaving Kansas City and going to the Baltimore Ravens on a 1-year, $6 million deal. $5 million is fully guaranteed per Adam Schefter. So, we had heard stuff about, the Lakers, or not Lakers. I've been talking about the Lakers. Are the Ravens going to get Kenny Golladay, who is kind of the biggest target of everybody on free agency? Can everybody get Kenny Golladay? And the Ravens, don't have the greatest receivers in the world. And so they had Sammy Watkins. Now the question for Sammy is, can he stay healthy? That's been his biggest problem. Talent, no problem. Speed, no problem. Getting open, no problem. It's health. I talked about Jimmy Garoppolo earlier. The best ability is availability. I know it sounds cliche, but it really is true. So, good deal for the Ravens here to add him to the list, or to the team for Lamar Jackson. So I absolutely like the signing for the Ravens. Question is, can he stay healthy? Now, let me touch on Zion real quick before I get to the Sweet 16. Zion Williamson, I talked about him. He had, but when carving it up first, when we first launched carving it up, Zion Williamson had not played a game yet. It was going into the 2019-2020 NBA season, which of course was the weirdest season, I believe, in NBA history. I mean, you had all kinds of stuff. You had all kinds of injured players, injured star players, by the way. Steph Curry was out. Klay Thompson was out. KD was out. Zion was out until January. You had, of course, the death of David Stern on New Year's Day of 2020, and you had the devastating death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 others in that helicopter crash. You had the pandemic hit, and you had a 4-month hiatus. You had the NBA playoffs were in a gym in Disney World. Yeah, it was a weird season. And so, but I said before that season that Zion Williamson, or I said before his debut, before he made his debut in January, it was a Wednesday night game against the San Antonio Spurs. I said this before that game. I said Zion Williamson is going to be the next LeBron James, and not in the instance you think. Not in the way that their games are totally different, of course. I mean, Zion is a big, strong, powerful dude who gets to the basket as well as anybody in the league. And LeBron certainly gets to the basket as well as anybody as well. But of course, he's a great passer. He's turned into a very, very solid, not great, but solid 3-point shooter. His fadeaway jumper is turning into somewhat similar to Michael Jordan, right? So I said, listen, Zion is going to be like LeBron in that he's got all this hype coming into the NBA and all this hype going into his debut. And he's going to live up to it. He is going to live up to it and at some point possibly be the best player in the NBA. Now, you think that's crazy, but let me give you some numbers. And this surprised me when I saw them. I was looking at these. I was like, wow, he's proving me right. Zion Williamson, through his first 66 games in the NBA, has scored more points than LeBron James did. This is their first 66 games of their career. Zion Williamson has scored more points, better field goal percentage, better 3-point percentage, and Zion's not the greatest 3-point shooter, and more rebounds than LeBron James through their first 66 games. So, and remember the Cavs weren't a championship contender until like LeBron's 4th year. Of course, this 4th year, they got to the NBA Finals. So who's to say, as crazy as it sounds, so far it's looking like Zion is kind of living up to this. who's to say in the next 2 years that they put the right pieces in New Orleans that they can't be a championship contender? Who knows? I don't know what the Lakers are going to look like at that point. The Clippers will be pretty much disbanded by that point. Utah, we'll see. Denver will probably still be around. Golden State will probably still be around. But other than that, like, who do we really trust? Portland, we've never looked at Portland as a championship contender. And we see a lot of time with the Pelicans, they're in pretty tight ball games with good teams. They just can't finish. And so once Zion continues to play more, we worried about injuries. We worried about conditioning. He's playing pretty high minutes every night, and he hasn't been hurt this season. And he was rightfully an all-star. He had a great second season, and he's living up to that kind of that bar where I said, look, he's going to be the next LeBron, in that he's going to be a franchise-changing player. He's going to be that dude that there's all this hype going into, the NBA with LeBron. There was more hype with LeBron than Zion because he was a high schooler, but Zion was probably the most hyped up player going into the league since LeBron. Well, we got to be honest, probably since LeBron. Duke, everybody hates Duke. I don't know why, but everybody hates Duke, and people kind of rooted for Duke a little bit when Zion played, right? He was energetic, right? He smiled. He was galvanizing, like with his teammates, like great leadership qualities. Like all the things you want in a great NBA player, he had them at the age of 18, 19 years old. And so all this hype, of course, you had the crazy dunks. You had blew through a shoe against North Carolina when former President Obama said, hey, his shoe broke. His shoe broke. And, just all the things, the tournament, he was great until the Blue Devils lost to Michigan State in the Elite Eight. So he had all those different things. I said, look, Zion's going to live up to this. I can't, unless he's not healthy, and as long as he can keep a good weight and good conditioning, he's going to be that dude. And we see, numbers don't lie, he has been. Through the first 66 games, he's been better than LeBron James. Which it's crazy to say that, but again, the numbers don't lie. More points, better field goal percentage, better three-point percentage, and more rebounds. And by the way, he's shorter than LeBron. He's about 6'6". LeBron's 6'8", 6'9". So that's saying a lot. And I don't think Stan Van Gundy is the long-term answer as the Pelicans head coach. I think they should have never fired Alvin Gentry. I said that at the time. That was a big mistake. And they've got talent on their team. Lonzo Ball didn't get traded at the deadline. JJ Redick did. Brandon Ingram's a talented scorer, but I don't think he's what you would call a valuable piece to the team. I think they could function just fine without him. I actually think Zion would be a better player without Brandon Ingram. Because of course he get the ball more and get to dominate more, even than he has now. So this kid's legit. We're going to be talking about Zion Williamson in a couple of years as, hey, he might actually be the best player in the NBA. Just mark my words. Around 2023 on this show, we're going to be saying, oh, hold on, he might actually be the best player. Just keep your eye out for it. I called it. Just watch out for it. So, of course, who doesn't love March Madness? We're right smack dab in the middle of it. The best weekend of March Madness is, of course, the opening weekend because you have, 32 games. You got like 5-6 games going on at one time. You're just tuning back and forth between True TV and TNT and CBS, right? You're just going back and forth. And we're now down to the Sweet 16. And I, like everybody else, I would assume all of our brackets have been in the trash for the last week. We don't even know where our brackets are now. We just ripped them up, whether you put it at the paper shredder, whether you burned it, whether you just threw it in the garbage can or did whatever you want to do, or you did like I did, and I filled out my bracket on my phone. I just deleted the app off my phone, right? I'm not going to need it anymore. But, of course, my national championship or my championship game is dead because Illinois got beat by Loyola Chicago. But my national champion, Michigan, is still alive. But we got 8 games. We got basically a quadruple header tomorrow and a quadruple header on Sunday. So this is fun right here. So let's start. I'm going to predict the Elite Eight, starting with 12 seed Oregon State against 8 seed. And for the love, they won't go away. Loyola Chicago. Now, first of all, something I didn't know about Loyola Chicago is I saw an interview with their head coach the other day, and he was on a radio show, and he was saying basically how they determine the seeds, the NCAA, they do this. It's called the NET system. It stands for something. I know that the N stands for like NCAA. I don't know what the ET stands for, but he calls it the NET system. And basically, it takes everything, the strength of schedule, of course, your record, how you did in the conference tournament. It puts that all together, and it ranks the best 64 teams. And he said the four highest ranked teams got the 1 seeds, right? 5 through 8 got all the 2 seeds. Loyola Chicago, according to this system, was 9th. Keep in mind, Loyola Chicago was ranked this season, so give them their respect. They were ranked 9th, according to this NET system. And they got an 8 seed, not a 3 seed. So this team's playing with a chip on their shoulder. Of course, you know what I love about Sister Jean's prayers before the game is she's giving like the scouting report in her prayers, right? So it's like, man, she must have read Coach's scouting report and just incorporated that in her prayers, because she was saying we ask that Illinois shoot like less than 30% from 3-point range, and they shot 29%. It's like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I'm telling you, if you don't believe in the power of prayer, you got to check yourself, man. It's crazy. They got Oregon State, who has not been the Sweet 16, and I don't know if they've ever been to the Sweet 16. Of course, they upset my Tennessee Volunteers, which I'm still not happy about. And of course, we look at their second round matchup, and they beat Oklahoma State and the best player in college basketball in Cade Cunningham. So 2 very impressive wins, and now they're playing a Loyola Chicago team, which had a wire-to-wire victory against Illinois. So the 1 seed, right? A lot of people had Illinois winning the national championship. I had them getting there and losing to Michigan. But it's Oregon State, it's Loyola Chicago, 2:40 Eastern on CBS. I'm going to take the Ramblers of Loyola Chicago to advance to the Elite Eight for the second time in the last 3 NCAA tournaments. I can't believe that's coming out of my mouth. It's crazy how a little school like this is going to go back to the Elite Eight. I believe they are. They will beat Oregon State. Oregon State's Cinderella run will come to an end. Loyola Chicago will play in the Elite Eight once again. Let's go to 5 seed Villanova versus 1 seed Baylor. This game tips off at 5:15 Eastern on CBS. Of course, right after Oregon State and Loyola. I'm going to take Baylor in this one. Villanova, Jay Wright is to me one of the 3 or 4 best coaches in America. But Baylor's playing with the chip on their shoulder, even as the 1 seed. I think it's been, I don't think they played in the Elite Eight in since 1950. I think I read that the other day. It's been since 1950. So what's that? 71 years. So it's been a minute since Baylor has played in the Elite Eight. I believe they will make history, go to the Elite Eight, beat Villanova in a close basketball game, and advance. Let's go to 15 seed Oral Roberts, 15 seed versus 3 seed Arkansas. This game tips off at 7:25 Eastern on TBS. Oral Roberts is actually the second 15 seed in history to get to the Sweet 16. No 15 seed has ever gotten to the Elite Eight. Oral Roberts, of course, upset Ohio State in a crazy basketball game, and then they upset Florida on Sunday in a tight ball game there as well. Arkansas is a really good team, good 3-point shooting team. I'm going to take Arkansas to win against Oral Roberts. Their Cinderella run will come to an end. Arkansas advances to the Elite Eight. Let's go to 11 seed Syracuse taking on 2 seed Houston. This game tips off on TBS at 9:55 Eastern. Houston, I believe, is one of the 5 best teams in the country without question, especially remaining. They beat Rutgers, 10 seed Rutgers, in a very close game. Respect to Rutgers, and then they dominated, of course, in the first round Cleveland State, who was also 15 seed. Or I wouldn't say also 15 seed because I was thinking about Oral Roberts. I'm going to take Houston to beat Syracuse fairly easily. Vegas only has Houston favor -6.5. I figured it'd be bigger than that, but I'm going to take Houston to go to the Elite Eight. I did, of all the mess ups I had on my bracket, I did have Houston get into the Elite Eight for what it's worth, and I believe they will, in fact, get there, beat Syracuse, and advance. Let's go to Sunday's games now. We got Creighton 5 seed Creighton taking on 1 seed Gonzaga, who is picked by most people to win the big dance. This game tips off at 2:10 Eastern on CBS. Gonzaga is huge favorites. Gonzaga is a huge favorite in Vegas, -13. I'm going to take the Zags to win this one over Creighton. I feel like this is a bad matchup for Creighton. Gonzaga's been on an absolute tear. I thought they would actually get beat in the Elite Eight by Kansas, but of course Kansas got smacked by USC. I'm going to take Gonzaga to advance to the Elite Eight with another dominant win. Let's go to Florida State and my national championship pick, Michigan. Florida State and Michigan. This game tips off at 5 Eastern on CBS. I believe this is going to be the best game of the weekend. Florida State is a great team, not getting enough credit for what they've done this season. Kind of gone under the radar in the ACC. Because, listen, the ACC was down, right? North Carolina wasn't as good. Duke missed the tournament. Okay, we had these different. Syracuse was really under the radar. They're an 11 seed. And everybody just kind of forgot about Florida State. And here they are in the Sweet 16 against the 1 seed, Michigan, with an opportunity to advance. I have Michigan winning this game by 1. I'm gonna call the score. I'm gonna go Michigan 73-72. 73-72. Michigan wins an amazing basketball game and advances to the Elite Eight. Let's go to UCLA, 11 seed UCLA, taking on 2 seed Alabama. Now UCLA has looked really good in the tournament. Of course, they started in the first 4. They had to win just to get into the tournament. They beat Michigan State barely in overtime, and then they beat BYU, 6 seed BYU. They beat Abilene Christian by 20, and now here they are against 2 seed Alabama. Now Alabama was without a question the best team in the SEC. They have one of the best players in America. I think that kid's name is like Quickerly or something like that. I can't remember his name. I think it starts with Quick. He's a really, really solid big man. They play UCLA. I'm going to take Alabama to win. This game tips off, by the way, at 7:15 Eastern on TBS. I'll take Alabama to win by 7. I think they win fairly easily, but UCLA does give them trouble somewhere in the middle of the second half and makes it a game. Let's go to, finally, Oregon and USC, a great Pac-12 matchup. The Pac-12 has been amazing in the tournament. I mean, not many people, I don't think, saw USC getting to this point, and not many people saw Oregon upsetting Iowa. And, of course, Luka Garza was dominant in that game against Oregon, but didn't get enough help with the Iowa Hawkeyes. And, Oregon advanced. And, of course, Oregon got in a sense, like a first-round bye in the first round because, unfortunately, there were COVID problems, and they got an automatic victory over VCU without even having to take the court. So they advance. They dominate Iowa in a game that was crazy high scoring in the first half. And now here they are playing their Pac-12 rival USC. I think this is going to be a tight game. Of course, this is 7 seed versus 6 seed, so very tight. I'm going to take Oregon. I'm going to take Oregon to advance to the Elite Eight in a close game over USC. Again, Florida State, Michigan is going to be the best game of the weekend. I believe Oregon and USC right behind it. And Vegas seems to think so as well. They got USC -2. So again, by the skin of their teeth, I'm going to take Oregon with the slight upset over USC in a great game to cap off this weekend in the Sweet 16. And then we're going to have a great Elite Eight, which I believe tips off in the middle of next week. Probably either Tuesday or Wednesday, if I read it correctly. So there you go. There's my predictions. Please hold me to it. I want you guys to. I want there to be accountability. I want y'all to get on me when I'm wrong, but I want to have the ability to gloat when I'm right. Right? That's the fun of this show. And so listen, all of our brackets are garbage. So hey, let's just restart our bracket here in the Sweet 16 this weekend. It's gonna be fun. So that is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. If you were listening on the podcast, we appreciate that. We're gonna have a great podcast guest coming up soon, so be sure to stay tuned for that. You've been listening to the show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. If you have watched this live or just watched this entire video, we really appreciate that on YouTube and Twitter. So hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy some college basketball. Enjoy whatever you're going to do. God bless y'all. Peace out.